everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Alex of Astrology, and this is my video for the new moon in Scorpio coming in on November 13th, 2023, which is a Monday here in California. However, please do adjust for your current location on the planet as that time and date may change. Fascinating new moon, guys. Definitely some things to unpack here. It is a deeply psychological new moon. There's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. I think that this is also a very powerful new moon cycle. I do think that we want to be intentional with our energies on this new moon and leading up to it. Obviously, we always want to be intentional with our energies, but this new moon in particular, because of the aspects involved, definitely has the potential to carry certain goal setting intentions very far. So, but yeah, then there's this whole like emotional level to this new moon, things that are kind of happening behind the scenes that is very interesting as well. So we're going to go full spectrum with this. We're going to do all the levels. First, before we do that, I want to show you the energies that we're in now. Because today I'm filming this at like 3:30 on Thursday, Pacific Standard Time. Today is, I feel, when the new moon started to really announce itself. And that's because the moon is now in Libra, in the first decan of Libra. It made its conjunction to Venus. And now it's on its way to conjunct the South Node, which will happen tomorrow on the 10th, on Friday. Then on the 11th, the moon will finally make its way into Scorpio. We will have the moon conjunct the sun technically on the 13th. So let me show you this. This is the new moon in Scorpio right there on the 13th. But look at the time. It's at roughly 12:13 a.m. So honestly, we're going to mostly be feeling that new moon on the 12th. But because the moon is in Libra right now, activating relationship themes, that will definitely be the case tomorrow when the moon conjuncts the South Node on the 10th. We're starting to feel it, is my point. It's starting to awaken, and it will continue to do so coming in over the next couple days. So what are we expecting to feel? Well, like I said on my Instagram, I was talking about this on my Instagram stories. This new moon is it has a little bit of like psycho bitch energy, as I call it. There's a real chance for there to be some manipulative energies afoot. And one thing that can be fun to play with for this new moon is just noticing where this kind of Lilith-like archetype is showing up in your reality, because you will find it kind of sprinkled around, even potentially within yourself. So what I mean by the Lilith energy is basically we have some stress aspects being made to Scorpio that unfortunately do not bring out the best side of Scorpio. They just don't. You guys know that I love Scorpio, but when we see aspects like this, we don't typically see the beautiful, shamanic, mystic element of Scorpio. We see the lower, baser, primal part of Scorpio, the scorpion. And one of the tasks that we have over the next couple days for sure, and part of this new cycle, is to transmute those primal aspects of Scorpio to their higher levels. But it is not done easily because it requires, as with all Scorpio lessons and Scorpio processes, something to die, something to change. We have to let go of something for that new perspective, that new level of wisdom to come in. So I don't even know where to start here. So I guess I'm going to talk about the major kind of stress aspect that leads me to say all of this. And to do that, we have to talk about Mars. So you can see that the new moon has a little friend. That little friend is Mars. And when we have a planet closely conjunct or next to the new moon, it means that that planet is fusing energies with that new moon. So this isn't just a new moon in Scorpio. It's a new moon in Scorpio that has a lot of Mars energy with it. And Mars is really powerful in Scorpio because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So when Mars is in Scorpio, it doesn't fuck around. It's very, very intense, for better or for worse. Now, for a new moon, we actually really like that because a new moon is a new cycle. And who better to help you with a new cycle than passion-driven Mars, which likes to fight for what it wants, and it goes after things with a lot of energy and vitality. So having Mars on the new moon is honestly amazing, and that's why I say we want to be really intentional with this new moon, because we essentially have like rocket fuel with this new moon. And Mars is going to fight for whatever it is that we set into this portal. That being said, when we look at the aspects that are happening to Mars, there's a little bit more to the story. And that is this right here, this opposition. So there's a planet in stark contrast to Mars. That planet is Uranus in Taurus. So this is, herein lies the problem. So when a planet is opposed or put in a tense aspect, it essentially stimulates the shadow side or a less than ideal side of that planet to express itself. At least until we do the work to change that. But if you just let this go where it wants to go, it's going to stimulate the shadow side of an already very kind of shadowy placement, Mars in Scorpio. So a harsh aspect to Scorpio is going to bring out the scorpion or the primal aspect of Scorpio. This is where we see manipulation. And I think that a lot of times when people learn about Scorpio and they hear the word manipulation, they think that this is like outright manipulation with the intent to be malicious. And that's honestly rarely what it is. I mean, if you're literally coming from a place of wanting to manipulate, I find that that's actually pretty rare. That's like actually kind of evil, you know. Most of the time people are manipulating a lot more subtly. They're veiling or masking intent to get a certain outcome. They're not telling a full truth out of fear, whatever it is. But I guess my point is you don't need to think of it as like outright manipulation. We're looking for the more subtle undercurrents of human consciousness here. Mars in Scorpio is also quite a lethal placement when it gets pissed off. And when Mars in Scorpio gets pissed off, it gets scary, to be honest. And one thing that Mars in Scorpio likes to do is cut people and things out of their life. So there can be a little bit of that energy at play. It's a highly seductive placement. So this can also be sexuality being used as kind of like a power over somebody or some other situation. And then, of course, there's the more classic area of Scorpio that I think people think of, which is literally keeping a secret, or like I said, kind of veiling or masking authentic intent with other actions or words. Not having all the cards on the table is a good way of saying that. Whatever it is, it's not fully authentic, it's not fully honest, and typically actions are coming from some kind of deeply buried trauma or wound or fear of being alone. With Scorpio, that trauma is typically abandonment or betrayal. That is definitely a bit of what we're learning about in this new moon and this new cycle. Now, Uranus is kind of nice because Uranus is going to help us see all of this from a new perspective. So one thing I could see happening with this new moon that's quite positive is giving us a new perspective on our wounds, our shadows. It could give us a new perspective on our motivations and how we are interacting in our intimate and close personal relationships. The Uranus element could also bring in unexpected news or like a disruptive, shocking element to something. It doesn't always operate this way, and I want to make that clear, but it's definitely a potential. Uranus opposite Mars, because Mars is our direction and where we're trying to go, having Uranus kind of zap Mars from across the chart could have like a piece of information hitting our awareness that kind of shocks us and then has us change our direction. That could happen. But yeah, Uranus in opposition to all the Scorpio, unfortunately, it is going to awaken us to some shadow. It truly is and will. So we're going to kind of have to lift up that rock and look at everything that's in the shadows underneath it. But because this is a new moon in Scorpio, there's obviously something here with this new cycle beginning where something deeply wants to change. And when we look around the chart at some of the other aspects happening here, well, we see that Mercury is in Sagittarius being squared by Saturn. Mercury in Sag has a lot to do with our philosophies. It has a lot to do with our beliefs. And Mercury in Sagittarius can be a little bit dogmatic or a little bit black and white about truth. Kind of like, I know what the truth is. This is my truth. Well, Saturn is squaring that, which tells me that this is a new cycle where we may want to expand our scope, the scope of our beliefs, and admit that a way we have previously done things or something that we have previously believed in, it might be time to mature out of that kind of black and white paradigm into something else. It's time to learn something with Mercury in Sag. It's time to allow life to become that teacher that you really need to show you that there's always a place where you can expand. There's always a place that you can learn something new and realize that maybe your previous beliefs are actually limiting you. Lots of relationship activity with this one because, yeah, Venus is in Libra now. Yay. And she's sextile that Mercury placement we just discussed. So yeah, over the next couple of days, you may have important conversations within your relationship dynamics where you're working some of this stuff out, but you just want to be checking in with yourself and also noticing that other person. Is everybody being honest with how they truly feel, or are they acting from a wounded place? And how can we transform and phoenix ourselves in those situations to come into a new form? The tarot associated with this new moon, very interesting. So the new moon in Scorpio is in the third decan of Scorpio, which is the Seven of Cups. And here we see this crow in the clouds. He's surrounded by cups with objects in them. He's in the clouds because it's meant to represent like his imagination. And the cups have objects that represent choices. So this crow is kind of in his mind and he's sorting and evaluating options in his imagination. The objects in the cups are interesting. There's the snake on the left and the heart on the right. And there is this aspect of this card that has to do with the more untamed aspects of our ego and its desires. So there's like this seductive quality to some of these choices. And yeah, this card is kind of a card that has to do with like fantasy and really wanting something really bad. There's almost this kind of like erotic aspect to this card. But this card comes with the warning label of like some things pan out differently in actual reality than they do in our fantasy. And there is kind of like a deceptive quality to this card of like, What is real? What's not? Are these real choices or are these just fantasies, right? So this card does warn of deception, especially self-deception. And there is this kind of seductive quality to this new moon that I think is really asking us to be careful, be discerning, and be really integral because of this just interesting Scorpio stuff that is coming into the field right now. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to my channel. If you would like to book a reading with me, I am taking readings at the moment. You can find me to book on my website, coyotestarastrology.com. And if you're interested in more astrology on a daily basis, I do a lot on my Instagram, and that's at Earth2Coyote. I'm putting that up on the screen right now. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your new moon in Scorpio, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.